Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready.
Hello, friends and neighbors, citizens of the world. I'm Michael James here in Chicago, and we're bringing you another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. This is our Christmas or our holiday Kwanzaa Hanukkah Christmas show. It's recorded on Wednesday, the 21st of December, and it's for the week of December 24th. It would also be our Christmas show. It actually is number 132 since the beginning of the pandemic. And today we're going to have Marguerite Horberg from the Hot House talking a little bit about going to Cuba again. We're going to have Stella Brown from Buddy, the store that's in the Cultural Center. And we're going to have someone I have yet to meet, Josie Falbo, a jazz singer, and I think Lynn Orman, our music producer, will join us then. Okay, a couple of good things. One good thing is something coming up. And some of you know that I do have a son who played with Twin Peaks, and he's two of the members of Twin Peaks, he and Clay. It's actually Clay's band. It's called Grape Tooth. They're going to be playing New Year's Eve at the Empty Bottle. It's sold out. That's Clay Frankel and Chris Balboni. Will be joined by Katie and Lake Jack Henry James and Justin Vittori. And I saw Grape Tooth once before, and they were something else. Another good thing was that soccer game, football game, however you want to call it. The final between France and Argentina. And France had won last year. I don't think Argentina's won for a while. Messi is a pretty star player in the world, one of the best, probably the best ever. There's some debate on that. And he and Argentina were looking for a win, and they were up 2-0 when the French tied it up. They then in the overtime, Argentina went ahead 3-2. It got tied again, and then in a shootout, France lost to Argentina. So while people are celebrating in Argentina, we have a situation in France where some of the racist tendencies among soccer fans have come to the fore. Reporting from The Gist, which my daughter Casey Blue tells me is a website for women who are into sport. It says, while the entire nation of Argentina continues to celebrate their World Cup win, a disturbing soccer trend has reemerged and is impacting runners-up France. Racist abuse directed at Black players. Enough is enough. The latest. Yesterday, the French Soccer Federation denounced racist social media comments aimed at national team players in the wake of Les Bleus World Cup final loss to Qatar. Well, we know racism is rampant in a lot of sectors. Plenty of racist folks still root for teams that have plenty of Black players leading the way. It's an ongoing situation that we're going to have to deal with over and over. But let me just say, for a guy who grew up on American-style football and did have kids who played soccer, but really not sure how it all works and what's going on, I did watch a lot of the World Cup, and I got to say that last game was one of the best sporting events ever. Okay, enough on that. A not-so-good thing, a real not-so-good thing, is the situation in Afghanistan with the Taliban. They had promised to let young women and girls to go to school up through high school. Women were already going to universities and colleges, and they just this past week have reneged on that arrangement, and girls can only go to school through high school now. They cannot go to college. So we're going to watch that. It's not too good a thing. Not so good also going on in Peru. Castillo, the peasant turned politician who won the popular election, tried to disband Congress. They arrested him. The vice president is also a progressive or a leftist, came out of political parties, but she is a new president, and I'm not sure how she's acting. There are massive demonstrations going on all over the country. So we'll try to have more detail, maybe we can get someone who knows more of what's going on. A good thing going on is the January 6th committee is coming through with some heavy information, and they have referred Donald Trump or the situation to the Justice Department. We will see if the Justice Department goes forward and decides to indict Trump in some form or fashion. You know who we're rooting for. And on the election front, let's just stay in Chicago. We are getting ready for another election here. It's going to be February 28th, and I'm sure there'll be runoffs both in aldermanic races and the mayoral race. If there are runoffs, that will be on April 4th. So we're going to elect a mayor. We're going to elect our aldermen. Some of them, again, some of them will be new. And they're also, once again, I call your attention to the newly created police district councils. So every police district will have a board composed of local citizens to overlook the police and to make suggestions. And I'm not sure what the limits are and what that board will be able to do, but we did interview Victoria Areola, and you can find that at youtube.com/heartlandmedia/videos. She is a candidate here for the 24th district and as part of a slate, and the other members of that slate will be also probably on the show. And we're going to probably have a lot of candidates and people in the next few weeks of a month up until those February elections. So get ready for all of that. And on a sad note, Franco Harris played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, one hell of a ball player. He passed away at 72. Those of you who are following the weather know that we've been promised big snow. It's Wednesday. It's supposed to start tomorrow, Thursday, and end on Saturday when the show airs live. And it's going to get really cold. So for the Christmas holidays, might want to stay in and do whatever you do to cheer yourself up and you and your family and your friends. We are going to, one more time, I'm going to bring up last week's show. Last week we had Steve Yellen join us from the border talking about the migrant surge for people seeking asylum here in the United States from countries in Central and Latin America that U.S. has certainly gained a lot of raw materials and extracted labor, et cetera, from. And Yellen was down on the border talking to a couple of young fellows from Nicaragua who are heading to New York, and he is ready and able to go back down to the border of El Paso and Juarez to continue the ongoing saga of people coming to the border and seeing what happens. The Supreme Court is upheld for another short period of time. The Trump-era rule that sends everyone back where they can wait on the Mexican side for asylum, an asylum hearing. That's not really a good thing, and we'll hear more on that next week. So enough of this banter. Hopefully Katie Hogan will get some time next week to come on to banter again. Otherwise, you're stuck with me, and I'll be right back with more Live from the Heartland. Our first guest is going to be Marguerite Horberg from the Hot House, and she's going to talk to us about Cuba and some ways that we can help people out there. Be right back. More Live from the Heartland here on the left end of your dial.
Not so far from here, there's a very lively atmosphere. Everybody's going there this year. And there's a reason the season opened last July. Ever since the USA went dry, everybody's going there and I'm going too. I'm on my way to Cuba, that's where I'm going. Cuba, that's where I'll stay. Cuba, where rum is flowing, and every dark-eyed stella lights a fella's panadilla. Cuba, where all is happy. Cuba, where all is gay. Why don't you plan a wonderful trip to Havana? Hop on a ship and I'll see you in sea. yeah.
Okay, we're back. We're back with the more live from the Heartland. This is our Christmas show recorded a few days earlier. And while I was looking through my emails recently, I saw one from Marguerite Horberg and the Hot House talking about some goings on in Cuba and another delegation going to Cuba. And as many of you know that we try to cover what goes on in Cuba. They're under a lot of pressure. You know, the U.S. has basically had an embargo for many, many years. Things lightened up under Obama. They got a little tougher under Trump again, and they haven't gotten that much better under Biden. We encourage everybody, of course, to get to your Congress people and tell them to lighten up on Cuba, see them as a friend and ally. But without me going on anymore, let's bring on Marguerite, who is waiting right here. Good morning to you, Marguerite, or good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon, Michael. And once again, thanks so much for inviting us to talk and tell your listeners how to get active.
Yeah, that's good. You're always good. And, you know, for those people who don't know about the Hot House, which is operating sometimes, sometimes not, why don't you fill us in on a little Hot House, and then we'll jump into some details on Cuba.
Thanks. Well, we're always active. We don't always have a venue, but we're working to buy a building at 3947 South Michigan, which is the Elliott Donnelly Youth Center. It's been vacant for a year, and we have about 20 people on our board and other people who are interested trying to purchase it and develop it as a multi-purpose center for organizing and cultural activities. So we're in kind of the early stages of fundraising. We have an application to the city and to the Chicago Community Trust, trying to raise some of that early heavy lifting money, and that would get us to be able to control the site and then do a lot more fundraising. So it's a very exciting project. If people ever are in Brownsville and drive south past Pearl's Place, there's a yard next to the building with a lot of iconic sculptures and murals. And it has a great kind of history in the Black community in Brownsville. And it's also going to be next to the Brownsville Trail, which will be a similar project to the 606. So our whole program is to tie in recreation and culture and meeting space in that location.
Well, going a little deeper backwards, tell people a little bit about what the Hot House has done. I mean, basically you brought in great music from around the world, jazz, politically correct, so to speak. Our friend Pablo Menendez in Mezcla has played there a number of times. You brought a lot of people in. Just tell people a little bit about the house's history, and that led us to this point where you're looking to raise funds to buy a building.
We started in 1987, so it's more than 35 years that we've been 70,000 people a year in our old space on Balbo. By now, I think we've had more than 1 million customers and paid close to more than $1 million in artist fees. So when we had a space, the last one is where Buddy Guys is currently located. We did about 500 programs a year. And I think our niche was not only jazz, but these debut world music artists like Cesario Vora, Hugh Masekela, Amiri Baraka, Gil Scott-Heron, just a whole host of folks, including the people from Cuba. So we've been without a venue since 2007, but since 2007, we've been doing programming around the city. So we haven't gone away, but people know us more for our space. So with the new space, we'll kind of ramp up that daily program again.
Well, you know, when you were talking about the new space, you mentioned Pearls. And if I'm not, that's around 37th Street, as I recall.
Yeah, it's Pershing in Michigan.
There's a hotel there.
I'm sure you know the Amber Inn, Michael. You've probably had a few dates in there. Over
No, I
the
never
years.
was in there, but I did go to Pearl's one time, and there were a lot of LPs on the wall of people who eat there and also record it. And it's a
Yeah,
great restaurant. People should
yeah.
check it out.
If you like soul food and gaining weight, that's your place.
Well,
It's got all the good stuff.
it is a great place, and we'll have to go there soon. But let's get to the gist of this thing. You sent out a notice that you were seeking support for another people's delegation to Cuba. This will not be the first time you've done this, but tell us what's going on. You got dates, you got people, you got places, things people.
I think it's so important that people here, especially your listeners, who are such great people of conscience, I mean, this blockade that has basically strangled our neighbors 90 miles away has been going on for 60 years. And it became decidedly worse under the Trump years. Unfortunately, Biden hasn't really done much to reverse a lot of the really draconian impositions that Trump extracted and enacted. So the tightening has just made it really miserable there. People are leaving in droves, taking huge risks to, go thousands of miles to get out of Cuba. Unfortunately, in this country, that sort of ballyhooed is, more proof that the misery is coming from living in socialism. And there's no good immigration policy that would allow for normal visa applications and people to travel back and forth. So this has been going on for decades, where people take enormous risks. Some people getting in flimsy boats or walking, thousands of miles. So a lot of people, like, this is from what we're hearing. I was there in June, and we're going back in a couple weeks. But from what we're hearing, it's kind of as bad as it's ever been, with extreme shortages of food, definitely medicine, and even simple things like soap. Cuba's also had a number of really tragic events that were just kind of flukes, where the lightning struck these oil refineries in Matanzas and sort of decimated that whole industrial port. And the hurricane in Pinar del Rio in the far west also was really devastating. So all of these kind of compounded things, one after the other, has really made it quite desperate. So we're taking a group. Hot House takes delegations maybe 2 or 3 times a year. This one's going to the Jazz Festival, and then we're going across country from Havana by bus to Santa Clara, Camagüey, Santiago, and ending up in Holguin. I also have a project kind of long-term in Guantanamo, which is involving artists and musicians, cultural folks who are Afro-descendant, living in Guantanamo in the shadow of the military base. So part of our work is a documentary looking at abolition and how people preserve their culture kind of in the space where there's a lot of occupation and imperial occupation of the Camp Delta. So anyway, we are collecting medicine and vitamins and a host of things that each of the delegates is going to pack in their suitcase. And we're going to deliver that to the Martin Luther King Center in Havana, and they'll distribute that. And then I'm also taking additional things to Guantanamo to give to our sister cities, our sister cultural center in Guantanamo.
Marguerite, you've done this before. You've taken people to Cuba on trips. Is this the first time you're taking people along with medical supplies and other things people need?
I think this is more concerted than in the past. Like always, we tell people bring art supplies, bring flash drives, bring, this and that. But this time we're really identifying antibiotics and certain medications that are really in demand. So we're trying to prioritize certain things. And I just want to mention that even if people don't support our trip, there's a group called Global Health, and it's run by Bob Schwartz. So if people Google global health, they're always taking massive amounts of humanitarian aid, and you can support their work. There's also, if people want to kind of learn more about what's going on, there's a fabulous series called The Belly of the Beast, which is on YouTube. And that's kind of a reporting from the street kind of every couple months about what's the latest happening. So those are two really good sources for people who want to know more. There's also a group in Miami called Puentes de Amor, and they've been doing great work down in Miami, doing caravans and really turning around this kind of intransigent right-wing sector in Miami. That's all led by Cubans and Cuban Americans. So if people want to go to Cuba, because I think more and more people want to go, and they're always asking me how to go. I think if you're young and have a small budget, the best way to go is with the Venceremos Brigade. And that's a 2-week trip that is really low cost. And you do some amount of physical labor in the countryside, and then you meet with Cuban officials and see daycare centers and lots of different places. And so I think young people especially, that's a great way to go to Cuba. Unfortunately, it's become expensive for tourists to go. You pretty much have to go in this people-to-people license, and that trip ends up being more than like $3,000 for 1 week, which is, not a cheap vacation.
Let me jump in here. The last time I was in Cuba, I think we did fly. It was for the Pan American Games. One time I flew to Mexico and then flew over to Cuba. And anyhow, I'm just wondering, are you all filled up on this January 21st trip to the Jazz Festival?
Yes and no. If people want to jump in, we could figure it out. There's also another woman, Christina Perez, who's got a group that she's accepting more people. But I do want to just get this last piece of, this last plug-in, that there were 4 Congress people who went to Cuba last week. And there's, we've done work in Chicago we passed a resolution unanimously in City Council and at the state General Assembly to end the blockade. So we're also trying to get everybody to really step up their phone calls to their elected officials, asking them to normalize and widen the people-to-people category so everyone can travel, and to end the blockade.
Speaking of the travel, you were going to take you were looking for donations, and you were having them dropped off on Sheridan Road. Do you want to share what you want people to bring you, or how they can contact you if they want to give some stuff?
The easiest thing is just to contact me. I'm on Facebook, Marguerite Horberg, Horberg, and we can message back and forth about either picking up or dropping off. You can also look up Hot House, which is one word, our website, and that'll give our address and phone number.
A couple of other things. You had mentioned 4 Congress people having gone to Cuba. I was going to ask you, who in Congress are favorable to changing legislation on Cuba? Who do you look to, and how are our Chicago Congress people, or Illinois?
Well, because I know we're close on time. Bobby Rush wrote a letter that had about 88 signatures So he would be somebody I would say maybe plays a leadership role locally. Danny Davis has also been really great on Cuba. Chuy Garcia, I think is probably another person. But I would say whoever your elected is, and that includes Durbin and Duckworth, people really just need to get on the horn and pester them. So
Do you have
I would,
any insights to who's playing at the jazz festival down there?
yeah, it's there's actually a Facebook page called Jazz Plaza. So you can write to them and ask questions, and they're putting their kind of updates as we get closer to the festival. Roberto Fonseca is a regular, Bobby Casca says, and Hot House we did a Hot House Jazz Fest. We did a project with them 2 years ago because the festival was closed during COVID, but so we produced the festival. Hot House did, which was pretty cool. It was Chicago artists from the AACM meets Cuban artists from the festival.
Well,
That's
Marguerite, you've done a lot of really wonderful work around Cuba and other things, and we're glad to have you filling us in. Cuba's a pretty wonderful place. For those of you who haven't been there, it's really worth going to. I think I've been there 3 times now. Maybe it's only 2. I was there for the Pan American Games.
Whatever, it's time to go back.
I'm thinking about that. When you said you're going down for the jazz festival, I'm planning to go to Hawaii, but I probably won't do that till later in the winter. Maybe I'll go to Cuba.
You should come, and we're going to see Pablo. We're going to his house. That's like one of our special events. I just think that it's also an act of solidarity, like going there now and spending money for people who are listening. If you have a couple extra bucks, try to go and show your people to people love for our neighbors, because they're so isolated and they're really desperate right now.
Well, I'll be in touch with you soon. And everyone else wants to get a hold of you, it's Marguerite Horberg on Facebook. And they need donations to take to Cuba, both medicine and other things, dried food, etc., as well as financial donations. And let me say that we know this goes to a good cause, and it's by good people. Thank you, Marguerite Horberg. And
thanks.
Good holidays, and we'll be in touch.
Hasta la siempre.
Hasta luego y buena suerte. Okay, everybody, stay tuned here on the left end of your dial. If you're listening in on Saturday morning, if you're getting it on YouTube, it's anytime you want to do it, youtube.com/heartlandmedia/videos. And our next guest is someone we've known pretty much since her birth, Stella Brown. She is the manager of Buddies, a Chicago area artist-focused gift shop in the Cultural Center. And it's the former Chicago Public Library. And she'll be with us in a minute. I'll be right back with more live from the Heartland here on the left end of your dial.
I'd give anything to see a little Christmas tree and to hear the laughter of children playing in the snow. Ooh, to kiss my baby under the mistletoe. But I can't promise my eyes this side unless they stop the fight. 'Cause I'm a prisoner of war, lying here in my cell.
Okay, we're back with more live from the Heartland for our Christmas show, recording it a few days earlier on Wednesday, the 21st. And since it's the Christmas season and people are about to do their shopping at the last minute, guys like me, who did not participate in the family list as much as he should have, and now probably will in the last couple of days, I thought it'd really be good to go downtown and do a little looking around about things that people might want to get. And we just happen to know a person down there named Stella Brown, who you can now see on your screen, or you'll hear her shortly. And she is the manager of Buddies, which is an artist-focused, Chicago artist-focused gift shop located in the old library, now called the Chicago Cultural Center, and I think it's Randolph in Michigan.
Yeah, between Washington and Randolph on Michigan. Yeah.
Well, good morning to you, Stella. Good afternoon, actually.
Yeah.
Good to have you. You're in your store.
Yeah, we're in the store, and I'll take you on a little tour later, but here's a small tour.
And then, so the Cultural Center, I don't know what goes on in there. It used to have a lot of books. And I know that I went to a few events there over the years, but I do get down to your store now and then because you've been so gracious and kind to carry my photos, my books, and some old Rising Up Angry some things.
Oh yeah, we've got a great Rising Up Angry poster. Look, all the old covers.
Yeah, all the covers except one. David, my son David Littman left one cover out. I'm not sure which one it was.
You needed a rectangle, so.
How about telling us a little bit about Buddies and how it came to be?
Sure. So Buddy is part of the nonprofit called Public Media Institute, which is based down in Bridgeport, and they do Lumpen Radio, which you guys have maybe heard of.
Sister
Lumpen
station.
Magazine. Yeah, Lumpen Magazine for over 30 years, free publication. They have Co-Prosperity, which is an exhibition space down on Morgan in Bridgeport, and some other programs. But I came on a couple years ago, right before the pandemic, and we are working with DCASE, which is the art branch of the city government, Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, and they give us this space. And their request was that we fill it with Chicago art. They wanted a Chicago art store, and so that's what we've done. And we've been open to the public since June of 2021. I just checked. We have 281 artists active in the store at the moment. And we give 60% of every sale right back to the artist. So we're all consignment. And the whole point of the store is to support Chicago artists.
Well, how did it actually come to being? I mean, you came on, but it was already in motion. And did our friends down there at Lumpen Radio, et cetera, did they initiate it, or did someone seek them out? How did it? It was a great idea.
Yeah. So the DCASE had this space open, and they put an open call for proposals for a shop like this years ago as part of an exhibition. Ed Marzuski, and which is now called Public Media Institute, they did open a store in the Cultural Center for sort of like a 3-month pop-up that had a similar mission with Chicago artists. And I think since then, the Cultural Center has been interested in a similar idea, but I came on when we put in that proposal and we won it. So I've been, along with the people, you know, with Ed and everybody that runs the organization, kind of the main person building it out. I can just walk around so you get a sense of it.
How did you get to know Ed?
Well, everybody that has lived in Chicago a certain amount of time knows who Ed is, right? But the funny story is that there used to be an original Buddy Gallery, which was on Milwaukee in the Lubinsky Furniture Building, which is now maybe getting turned into a permanent art space. And I used to go to parties there in high school. But so I think just because he's been like a cultural producer for years, I already knew who he was. And a good friend of mine, Nicholas Wiley, is the managing director of Public Media Institute. So it was an easy way for me to link up with them. Okay,
well, give us a little tour. Tell us who we're looking at as you go around.
That is a customer behind me. Let's see how I can do this. So we've got kind of different sections of the store. I would say that we do kind of like, we've got a ton of books. We've got some music, which is not my personal specialty, but I'm always open to more people. We've got like Numero Group, we've got Sonorama, we've got International Anthem. We've got a lot of cool books from various publishers. Like this is Charles H. Kerr, which is one of the oldest radical publishers, still alive.
Yeah, it's still going.
Sober's Cove makes a lot of really cool, like art specific books. I don't know if I'm backwards on your screen.
No, you're good. It's good.
Okay. We also do a lot of, we've got some like short fiction from like local writers that are like young and local trying to kind of like get started. We've got a ton of sort of like functional art and ceramics. This artist, Chris Wooten, gets like salvages wood from old like dressers and stuff he finds in the alley and then turns it into these like beautiful turned things. So we're always looking for stuff that's like as local as we can possibly get. We've got these very cool butt frog mugs from Liz Ford, which is like, we've got a ton of ceramics, like functional and otherwise. At the moment, through the end of the year, even if you don't get here because of the blizzard, we've got ornaments. So we invited about 30 local artists to make ornaments, and those are here in the store for a special show. We've got these cool ceramic mahjong tile ornaments. But we also have, I mean, I could get into anything specific, but like you can see from behind me, we've got a wall of prints, we've got publications, we've got like toys and games, we've got clothing. So there's like a little bit of everything for everybody at various price points.
Well, Stella Brown, take a walk over to some photos that you know I might like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me show you our our best-selling photographer, Michael James.
Oh, and then those are my Chicago shots. They're not at all the other ones, but there's, oh, good. They got Muddy Waters and James Cotton, Cabrini Grady.
And we've also got some of Michael's books. But you do, oh, and people really do like the old Heartland photos.
Yeah.
And honestly, we do sell a lot of you got some really nice little like $10 prepackaged cards that could function as postcards, because we're really like, we are like a downtown Chicago kind of tourist location. So these do really well also.
Yeah, those are, I keep telling people they're mailable photos.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, Stella, let me ask you, what your parents are both in the filmmaking business. And, you know, Peter Kuttner has been on the show with Rising Up Angry. And I'm trying to get him to come back on to do kind of Peter Kuttner, what's going on around the city that you ought to know about thing. And I'll probably do that. But what are your plans for the rest of your life? Are you going to run stores? Are you an artist yourself? What do you got planned? You just got married. Congratulations on that.
I did. Thank you. After a 17-year relationship, we finally decided to get married.
Hot time.
Well, yeah, I am an artist. Before I helped open this store, I got my MFA in fine art from UIC, which was really, really great. And my interest is in rocks, the city as a piece of geology, and kind of like what it means that we've brought all this stuff to the city, or that we mined all this stuff, and how the built environment, you know, changes over time, and what it means kind of like for, you know, environmental change, but also just like humans living in a city versus humans living in nature. I'm really interested in that. And I'm not done with that. I'll keep thinking about that forever. Oh, and I have a glass brick and some ceiling tiles from the old Heartland Cafe building, because people know I want those old materials. So I've got those.
Well, you should talk to me. I got stuff laying around all over.
Okay.
I'm going to have to divest of all of the things I've collected, but I'll keep you in mind.
Thanks. I would say this has become the art that I do, because the art that I do is also very like curatorial in nature. I'm really interested in the way that we display things and how it affects their meaning. So for now, the store and helping other artists has become a really big part of what I do. And I've always liked stores and museums. And I feel like I'd really love for that to be in my life forever. And more important than anything, being in Chicago, being a Chicagoan. Like Michael said, my dad's from Chicago. My mom's been here for a very long time, and I'm not going anywhere. I bought a house in Humboldt Park. So it's really important that the things that I'm working with are from Chicago, because I think it's important that we do things that are more local and never, ever, ever buy anything from Amazon if you want small businesses to keep existing.
Well, that's some good input, and I really appreciate that. How about telling us, is there a website, a place people can sign up to be notified for your special events and your
Absolutely.
location and your times?
Yeah. So our website is hi-buddy, buddy.org. We also have an Instagram, buddy.chicago, and we post mostly on there. But I would also say that if anyone is an artist or a small business in Chicago producing stuff locally and they're interested in selling in the store, in the main menu of our website, there's a button you can click that says apply. And it's a super simple form. You can just tell us what you make and who you are. And we do our best. We're a very small staff, but we do our best to review those things as much as possible. And we will keep doing 4 to 6 shows a year. So we'll have different, we did a show of pinatas that were made and designed locally. We did, we have the ornaments, we did ceramics, we did shag rugs from a organization here called Envision Unlimited. So we do always have cool stuff going on. Yeah. And you can look at our organization's website. It's Public Media Institute. Yeah.
And you're on Michigan Avenue between Washington and Randolph.
Yes, if you know where the Bean is, we're kitty corner. You can get right off the train at Washington and just walk down where the big, beautiful, like Michael said, the old library, which you have to be a certain age to say that's the old library. But it's a beautiful building. And if you live in Chicago and you haven't been to the Cultural Center, shame on you, because it's free and it's gorgeous. And there's always a ton of art exhibitions, and we're here.
This is great. So Buddy is my favorite store these days.
Thank you.
And Stella, I'm so glad that you were willing to take a few minutes out of your busy day to talk to the millions of listeners that we have, and we're letting them know that you're going to be there beyond Christmas, even though this was spirited by the Christmas shopping season.
Yeah.
And we'll have you back on for whatever project you've got going on. You've got something you want to announce. This is good to see you. Happy holidays to you and all your customers and all Chicago and the whole world.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Stella.
Bye.
Okay, you are listening or watching Live from the Heartland, depending how you're getting it. And we will be right back with our third and final guest for the Christmas show, which is a woman named Josie Falbo, who is a jazz singer. So don't go too far here from the left end of your dial, because we'll be right back with more Live from the Heartland.
That we'll need some snow, candy and mistletoe, children's laughter, hope and joy to light our way. We hope that there's going to be presents beneath the tree, things we've wished for will make a merry Christmas day, gliding by on a hurricane wind, watching sugarcane dreams roll by. Holding hands makes us realize the importance of you and I. Christmas will come and go, a new year will start to flow, and I hope we'll have each other, every sister, every brother, yes, we're going to need each other next year. Santa's coming with his reindeer, with gifts for you and I, but it's important to remember the truth on Christmas night. sleigh bells are going to ring. It's not going to mean a thing if we don't have each other. Every sister, every brother, yes, we're going to need each other next year.
Hey, we're back with more Live from the Heartland. This is our Christmas show. So what would Christmas be without a little music? We don't know if it'll be Christmas music or not, but we really have a wonderful entertainer, wonderful performer coming on right now, the one, the only Josie Falbo. And we're really glad to meet you, Josie. We've heard a lot about you from our producer, our music producer, Lynn Orman.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. That makes me feel very, very welcome and wanted.
You
Thank
are wanted. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your music and how you got into music and where you grew up? Little autobiographical sketch here.
Okay, I'll try to make it as concise as possible because I've been around a long time, so there's a lot to tell. But basically, I was singing since I was like before 2 years old when my mother, who was chirping around the house singing arias, realized that I was chirping along with her in tune. And from then on, as it is they are wont to do, Italian families, whenever there were get-togethers, I was pushed in front of them to sing. So I had a lot of encouragement from my family, my godmother. My sister was also a professional singer for a while, and cousins, everybody who was into music always to sing. Even when I got to school, the teachers who discovered this talent would bring me to classes to sing. So it was something I did. It just came kind of naturally, and it's something that I love to do. It wasn't, it just happened, I guess.
Was your
So,
what was your favorite kind of music when you were a kid besides your mother and her arias?
oh, since she brought me with her when I was very, very little, I might have been about 5 years old, because she couldn't afford a babysitter, and she would take me to see these filmed versions of grand opera, Puccini and Tosca. And although I may not have understood what was going on the screen, the music always affected me greatly. And I was such gorgeous, magnificent music. I loved it and kind of stuck with me. And I just kind of mimicked that with her. But at some point, my sister would bring home pop singers like Mel Torme and Frank Sinatra. And those singers influenced me greatly. And the one who influenced me the most when I first heard her was Ella Fitzgerald. It knocked my socks off and still does to this day. And I kind of gravitated to that kind of singing. It was, in my opinion, it was a sort of more your creativity was given. You were given that right to create a song, just as long as you the chords of the song, like that spontaneity. And so I'm drawn to that.
Do you remember
So
your first club date? I know you grew up over by Taylor Street, which was a pretty heavy Italian neighborhood back in the day. Probably, I don't know, still, the University of Illinois has gone up over there since I first knew about Taylor Street. And the great Florence Scala, who tried to stop it and protect the neighborhood. But when did you first perform in a club?
oh my gosh, you're going back a long time ago.
We're like about history.
Okay. It was a wonderful musician, was greatly respected. His name is Bobby Centano, and he had heard me sing when I sat in with his group. I was going out with his very good friend at the time, who was a trumpet player, and from then on, we worked in these clubs, the names of which escape me, all of them.
Well, you didn't forget the name of this club that you're performing at on the 29th, which is a week from Thursday. We are recording on Wednesday for Saturday for the day before Christmas, and the show is for the week of the 24th. But it's only a short amount of time until Josie Falbo, is going to bring her new show to the stage of Chicago's Winters Jazz Club. And it's called Swing Ladies of Jazz, is their series, I guess. Tell us about your upcoming event.
Well, it's something I've always wanted to do. It's kind of a collection of all the singers who had the most influence on me when I began singing. With, of course, leading with my icon and my goddess, Ella Fitzgerald. But there were many other singers, male and female, but I'm concentrating in this particular show on the females. Carmen McRae and Nancy and June Christie and Anita O'Day, and maybe, of course, Sassy, Sarah Vaughan. And they were really big, really big influences in my singing. And you'll probably hear some of their actions whenever I do. So, a little.
So you're gonna do a show at Winters.
Yes.
You're gonna do two shows. It's Thursday the 29th, both at 7:30 and 9:30. And if people are out and about, it's at 465 North McClurg Court, which is downtown a little bit toward the lake. And it'd be a great show to attend during the holiday season. You gave us a list of all these great women singers. Was Nina Simone in there by any chance?
I do love her.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking about the ones who influenced me the most, those ladies that I just mentioned were the most. I mean, there are many, many female singers that I adore.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to have the ones that impacted me the most, those are the ladies.
And who's the band? Who do you have playing with you?
Oh, nobody good. I mean, Jeremy Kahn is the god of piano. Bob Rummage on the drums, Rosenberg on the bass, accompanying beautifully.
It sounds like it's going to be a good show, and Lynn Orman sometimes tries to drag me out in the night.
I'm going to drag you out for this one.
To go to a show, and I will definitely come if I get a ride.
Okay. Oh, Lynn, you gotta give him a ride. This will be
absolutely. What a band, Josie. Really, I mean, Jeremy.
Right?
I mean,
yeah.
You know, really, these are Chicago's A-list musicians. You couldn't find better musicians to back you up. And you have a Christmas song.
I do.
That you're going to be performing. Tell us about it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't know which one are you referring to. The same each other, or are you referring to my Christmas CD, the jazzy interlude?
I love that too. No, the new one with that Miles wrote.
Yes, each other. Yes, that wonderful song, and I'm so glad that they asked me to sing it. It's a most wonderful song, although it was amazingly enough over 30 years ago. Ken Carlson wrote the beautiful lyrics, and Miles wrote that wonderful melody. And it took them all this time, I guess, from what they tell me, to find someone whom they wanted to record. So I'm glad that I was chosen, because it's a wonderful, wonderful song with such feelings, such wonderful lyrics, and it's the message is beautiful. So I can't say enough.
Josie, can I ask a question? Is there it's on YouTube, correct? So if our international audience wants to go see the video, they can tell us where we can see it.
Oh, it's definitely on YouTube. It's every time I go to YouTube, they look for something. There's my picture in each other, the little video that we made there. You know, it comes up quickly. So it's not hard to find. And the little video that Ryan Bennett put together, the videographer, it was just so perfect for this lovely little song. And it just did such a great job.
And Lynn, in our few remaining moments, why don't you stick around, Josie?
Okay.
Lynn, tell us if you had a little roundup of things going on that you wanted to call people's attention to.
Well, there's some fantastic music out there. Of course, Saturday and Sunday, most of the places, the venues are closed. So I'll be tuning into White Christmas on my favorite television show and movie that I have to watch every year, and The Grinch Who
Yes.
Stole Christmas, right? A couple of really great TV shows. But I wanted to give a heads up in case our audience was listening that again, first night Evanston is going to be happening on New Year's with Corky Siegel, of course, one of our favorite guests, and there's a lot of music going on. There's a couple of brunches at Madame Zuzu's in Highland Park. Frank Russell, he will be his beautiful brand of jazz with one of our favorites, Bobby Irving, on keys. He will be at the Epiphany and Big Suit. People are going to be invited to go to the big room and see a Talking Heads review and show. And Derek Prosell, who we recently had on as a guest, he's going to be at Hey Nani in Arlington Heights. So there's a lot of great music. And you know what, Michael? Maybe what we'll do is we can put that up on our YouTube for people to go see where they want to go. Here's some music this week.
That'll be good. Well, I'm going to just call everyone's attention to Josie Falbo will be performing at Winters Jazz Club, 600 block of McClurg Court on Thursday, the 29th, is it?
9th.
29th. And
The
there are two
29th.
shows, 7:30 and 9:30.
Right.
And then Lynn did call your attention to Evanston first. And I'm going to remind people who may have not tuned in at the beginning that Grape Tooth, which includes a couple of guys from Twin Peaks, including my son Cadian, sitting in on the drums, they're playing at the Empty Bottle. So there's a lot of music. There's a lot of good things going on in the world. There's a lot of challenging things going on in the world, a lot of things that Josie and Lynn and I and Hal and everybody who makes the show possible this week have to be paying attention to, because it's a rough world out there. And it's not going to get any better unless we all make it better, and music will help us on that pathway. So I want to thank everyone over at WLUW, our home base. I want to thank our producers, Katie Hogan, Lynn Orman Weiss, Tom Clark, as well as Hal James, and always thankful for all the guests who are willing to come on this show and endure the technical difficulties we may have so that we can see them on YouTube and we can hear them on WLUW. We can watch them on CAN TV, and you can go to Google and Spotify podcast. So, with Christmas in mind and a New Year's that hopefully will be better, we encourage everybody to do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that we do. All power
to the people.
To the people.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Josie. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Hal. Thank you, everybody else. We love you, and we will see you next week.
Be safe in Snowmageddon.
Oh.
Adios.
Are you doing the best you can? Over the mountain, under the big blue sky, you got a dream awaiting. I can see it in your eye. It may not come easy, but you know you've got a friend. I'll be by your side the entire ride. Just let me hear you say amen. Are you doing? Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing? Are you doing the best you can? Tout donne, est-ce que tu donnes le meilleur de toi-même parce que tu l'aimes? Tu donnes, est-ce que tu donnes le meilleur de toi-même si tu l'aimes? Tu donnes, est-ce que tu donnes le meilleur de toi-même quand tu l'aimes? Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing?